Okay, so let's talk about the power of crying and as it relates to building deeper levels of connections with some of the other men in our life. And I want to start out by sharing a story with you. In the University of Scranton, where I did my undergrad. It's a small school, and so there was, I don't know, probably a couple of thousand people that were a part of the undergrad program. So you got to know just about everybody there at the school. And one of my best friends to this day, his name is Brad. I met him in college, and Brad and I were the two freshmen, two of the bigger freshmen, guys that had played sports in high school and were into the gym. And so Brad and I were, kind of the macho guys walking around campus, and of our two separate groups, we were the big guys. And I didn't hold any animosity towards Brad. I actually respected him very much. And so going through the semester and whatever the case may be, we would go by each other and, again, no ill will or anything like that. And then one time it was during the Christmas break where there was what we call interim classes. Brad and I were both there. I was playing hockey my freshman year, and I don't know why he was there, but we met up at a party. And we were both pretty drunk at that time, and we were both at the party, and it was like, hey, man, hey, and we're laughing, and we're joking, and we're talking, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, we're doing shots out of turkey basters together, big Thanksgiving turkey basters, we're doing shots, and we became best buds from there on and all the way through to this day, and that was back in 2004, so you can imagine we've been friends for a long time now. Brad and I had that mutual level of respect, but we also had that bonding moment. Now, alcohol was involved. I don't know if I would promote that necessarily, but hey, that was a part of what it was in college together. And so Brad and I had that moment of connection where we kind of let our guards down and we were vulnerable with each other. And our junior year, we had an interaction with another guy who was also the other big guy on campus. He was a wrestler. I won't say his name out of respect to him and what I'm about to share. But so Brad and I were good buddies, and this other guy, he was the other real big guy on campus. And we got along for the most part. I don't think there was ever, any bad blood or any animosity. But I'll never forget, it was Brad and mine's junior year and this other gentleman's senior year, and we were all hanging around drinking, and he came down to our room one night, and my room, Brad and I were there, and he came, and I'll never forget this. He sat on the bed, and this was kind of those last month or two of school, so whatever it was that you wanted to say to somebody, you were going to say it and get it off your chest, because after you graduated, there was a chance that maybe you weren't ever going to see them again. And so we're hanging out, having a good time, partying, drinking, listening to music. And this gentleman comes and he sits on the bed, puts his hands over his head. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on? We're listening to house music and dancing and getting all pumped up to go out. And he started to share how he really wanted to be friends with us this whole time, but was maybe intimidated, afraid, unsure of how to do that, kind of come up to us and talk to us and build that connection with us. And I won't go as far as to say that he said that he was jealous of us, but there was definitely kind of a dance that had been going on throughout most all of our time together at school. So he sits on the bed. He starts to share this with us vulnerably, how he was feeling, and he started to cry. He started to cry. And I'll never forget that. Here's this big guy, right? We're all in the middle of partying and doing our thing, having a good time, and he started to cry. And there was something that happened inside of Brad and I in that moment where we didn't have any animosity or ill will, but there was definitely a softening that I felt, and Brad and I later reflected on, kind of this softening that happened, right? And I remember sitting down on the bed next to him and giving him a big hug, right? And I love you, man. You know, like, that's awesome. Let's be friends. And of course, we had become very good friends from that point on, the rest of remaining time at the school. He ended up staying an extra year. So we had a whole extra year to bond and, you know, continue to build that relationship. And we built it on there after we graduated. But I share that story because I want to let you know that when we're vulnerable and when we cry in front of other men, it also creates a completely different level of connection. And it can do so in a different way. You know, in the book so far, I've spoken a lot about crying and as it relates to helping to build the relationship with your wife or with your significant other. But there's also another power of connection as it relates to crying and being able to connect with the other men in your life. As a counselor, I sit with men, and trust me, I've sat with some pretty tough war veteran gentlemen, okay? Some tough dudes that have been through way more than I have been through in my life, seen people blown up and killed and watched people die in their arms. And these men cry with me. They get connected to their emotions as I hold space for them. And I watch them soften, open, and just create this release for themselves as they allow themselves to cry. And it helps me to feel more connected to them, but I'm their counselor. It's my job to hold space for them and to be connected. But you want to know what else happens? I watch as something else happens inside of them where they feel more connected to me. And it takes the counseling relationship to a completely different level. I mean, it's like that. And the moment that that hardened man, right, the moment that we as men are willing to let down that tough exterior and cry with another man, it creates that deeper level of connection, that deeper level of, I get you, man, I see you. And so I wanted to share that story as a way to let you know that this power of crying, and big boys do cry, it's not only as it relates to your relationship with significant others in your life, your wife, your spouse, your partner. It also can help you to create a completely different level of connection with the other men in your life, whether, you know, you're a war veteran or you're serving in the armed forces, whether you're a police officer, a fireman, or whatever the case may be, whatever your profession is, to be able to be vulnerable and to cry and to open up and to live from your heart and communicate with us other guys that way. Oh man, it creates such a deeper level of connection and support in your relationships.